rising, the graduation rates are going up. ACT test scores are up. This is a majority-minority school, so again, the results here are remarkable. And in my view, at least, we need to have more of a seamless approach to education. It's not just K through 12, then what do you do next? It should be K through 16 and beyond. And we see here this seamless transition where we have high school students that graduate here at Innovation High with an associate degree in hand. That's remarkable. And it shows how we can, in fact, have more efficiencies, spending less money to get those kinds of outcomes. So, again, I guess when I go out for the budget, and you all know how passionate I am about making sure we improve our education achievement in this state, this is a great backdrop and a great setting to roll out the budget here today. So again, thanks to one and all for being here. And let me just mention a couple of things in beginning here about the budget. One, we've done a lot of things in preparation to give us the opportunity to invest more money. I talked about strategic investment in the budget. It's not just about spending money, it's about spending money wisely and strategically and where we can get the best return for the taxpayer's dollar. That takes a little bit of thought and foresight and hopefully a little bit of wisdom. We've had great success in times past in how we've spent our money. We've been very good at creating an environment here. As you know, I came in at the time, depths of the Great Recession, and we set a goal to focus laser-like on growing the economy and turning the economy around here in Utah. And we set a goal to become the best performing economy in America, which we have a lot of naysayers, say you can't do that. You're asking too much. And yet, because of the good work of the legislature, the great work of the private sector, the wealth creators, the risk takers, this year we've had 8 months this year where we have led the nation in economic job growth creation in the private sector. A remarkable turnaround for the state of Utah. Why is that important? Because that produces additional revenue to pay for whatever we, the people, think are important. To reinvest money back into areas that maybe we've underfunded in times past or had to just scrape and skimp to get by, and now we have an opportunity to invest this money. I also appreciate the fact that over this period of time, not only have we improved the economy, but we've diversified the economy. We're the third most diverse economy now in America today, which means we don't have all our economic eggs in one basket, which means that we're not as susceptible as some in this country to downturns, whether it's the oil, energy marketplace, or manufacturing, or aerospace, or tourism and travel. We've diversified so that we have, in fact, reason to be, I think, very optimistic about the future. And we've got good principles. Again, I guess as I roll out the budget, we ought to talk about the principles I think are important, because it's all part of the budget process. One, in Utah, we don't spend more than we take in. We do not have unreasonable debt. We, in fact, empower the private sector and create a business-friendly environment for people to grow the economy. And we save for a rainy day. We've set aside significant amounts of money. And as a result of this, we are one of only 10 states. This is a sad but true story. We're one of only 10 states in America that have a AAA bond rating. And it indicates that others have maybe lost the way when it comes to their fiscal moorings, but not in Utah. And I want to pay tribute to, we just had the passing of former Governor Rolling Walker. One of the great things she did amongst many is when she was in the legislature, created the Rainy Day Fund. And I'm pleased to tell you, not only do we have a AAA bond rating, but we have a Rainy Day Fund. The total of our funds there, $528 million now in the Rainy Day Fund, which means we are prepared. We are ready if, in fact, there's another downturn in the economy. That Rainy Day Fund helped us significantly when I came into office to help bridge the gaps and get us back on the solid footing. So, again, another reason to thank Olin Walker for her leadership is our Utah Rainy Day Fund. By the way, another thing that I have to explain to you as we talk about this process and what's taking place as you assemble a budget. According to the Pew Charitable Trust, Utah is less reliant on federal dollars than virtually any state in America today. Now, Utah has the 7th lowest total of federal spending relative to our gross domestic product. Utah spends the fewest dollars when measured on a per capita basis. So the idea that we're somehow becoming more beholden to the federal government is really a myth and not true. We are in fact doing very well in how we balance our responsibilities with our state-generated taxes, and even though federal dollars are generated from Utah, we do have some concerns about the streams that come back with the federal dollars and telling us how we must spend them, as opposed to giving us the flexibility to allow for the uniqueness that we have in our own demographics in the state of Utah. This budget builds upon our past successes, but it also looks towards the future and what we need to do to continue to have economic prosperity and economic opportunity and make sure that our future is bright. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of the process, this is not stuff we just pull out of the air. We, in fact, worked very diligently for about 3.5 months to get us to this point here today. We've had over 300 requests of people, stakeholders, agencies saying, we need more money for this, we need more money for that. We've had over $1.5 billion of requests for new money. Part of the process is going through that screening process and weighing and considering the requests. Giving them due consideration, but happy to say, we've got to prioritize the finite numbers of money and say no to some good ideas and some worthy projects, but recognizing that we can't fund them all. We'll fund those who are the most needful and are most strategic for the future of Utah. So this budget we've come up with today through this significant process is now, I'll present to you as $14.8 billion is the total budget we're presenting today. It's balanced budget, which we always do here in the state of Utah. It has no structural imbalance. That means we don't pay with one-time money for ongoing government programs. We don't do what they do in Washington, D.C. or other states. We have a balanced budget and it's structurally balanced. Also, it has no tax increases in order for us to, in fact, generate the revenue and pay for the programs we believe are important. And it also has no new debt. In fact, what we've done with our efforts is really pay down the debt. We've paid down $350 million in debt this past year. And over the last 5 years since I've been in office, we've paid down $1.5 billion of debt. So we're getting even fiscally more prudent and financially stronger as we build on a foundation of fiscal prudence where we, in fact, respect the taxpayers' dollars. Now, because of this, we have had growth in the economy. That growth produces additional revenue. And when I talk about the revenue, the good thing about Utah, again, this is not the same in every state, it ought to be, but we work with our legislature and legislative fiscal analysts, and we come up with what we call consensus numbers, so that we're all building from the same, pile of money. And the amount of money we've agreed to is $561 million of new money. Now that's broken down. This is a key issue. 181 of that, $181 million, that is one-time money. $380 million that is new ongoing money. That's really what you build your budget with as far as ongoing programs. That $380 million is really the new money you have to spend. The one-time money are carryovers, monies that have been unspent, that we have available to us, and we typically use the one-time money on things that are just one-time issues, like building roads, building buildings on our college campuses, state buildings, those kinds of things that are not an ongoing need. So we'll spend $181 million in those kinds of areas. As everybody knows, or should know, that my #1 budget priority since I've come into office has been education. Again, I'm wise enough to understand that we're going to continue to have a sustained economic growth. We've got to have a labor force that, in fact, has the skills that the marketplace wants and demands, and the marketplace is dynamic. We've got to, in fact, adjust some of our skill sets to make sure we get the right outcomes for our students. What we see here on this campus is remarkable in their ability to innovate and to help align up the skill set being taught in high school and then into college for the demands of the marketplace. And we need to make sure that we continue to do that. And so it's not all about the money when it comes to education, but it is some about the money. And so we are putting the bulk of this new money into education. 70% of all the new money is going to go into education. And that's broken down this way. $422 million of new money now is going to go into education. I'm pleased that we have spent $1.326 billion for the last 4 years. But now with the additional 422, that brings us up to $4.4 billion now these last 5 years, which will go into education. The largest amount of money of any administration in history putting it into education. So it's a good start. It's not enough. My plans are that we invest another $1 billion over the next 5 years into public education and $275 million into higher education. We need to invest significant amounts of money, and we can do it, particularly if we continue to understand the state of the principles that got us to this place today by growing the economy and producing additional revenue. So 422 million total for education, 4.4 total now. That's 281 million that's going to go for public education. That'll be 234 for ongoing and 47 one time. For higher education, it'll be 51 million of ongoing funding and $89 million of one time. I'm also proposing that we have a tax shift that occurs out of our general fund. Last year, I broached the subject of earmarks. I think we have too many earmarks. 43% of all the new money going in the general fund is now earmarked and taken off the table. I don't think that's good policy. I think the legislature ought not to have their hands tied when it comes to the debate of the available funds on the table. What do we need and what are our priorities and what's the available monies and how to spend it? So I'm proposing to take $10 million out of earmarks and shift that over the next 5 years, $10 million a year, so a total of $50 million, and put that into early education intervention with our at-risk kids, low-income children throughout the state. Again, believing that if we get them started off right, get them a leg up here on education, that our chances of them having graduation and good educational outcomes are improved dramatically. And we actually already are seeing that happen. Our graduation rates, as you saw in the release from yesterday, were up to 84%. When I came in, it was about 75%. Our dropout rate was like 26, 25%. Now it's down to 11 or 12. So again, we've had significant progress, so I feel the momentum, I feel the change is taking place. We're going to continue to build upon that momentum as we go forward here with money into education. One of the other drivers for education, there's really two of them. One has to do with the weighted pupil unit. That's the basic funding mechanism for public education. I'm proposing to increase the WPU, the weighted pupil unit, by 4.75%. That really translates to about an additional $130 million that will be given to our schools. That means about $206 million. That's $206 per every student in every school in Utah. So again, a significant increase in WPU, and it helps to make sure that we have a good education for any of our students, no matter where they're located, whether in Bluff or Battlefield. You know, in the Uinta Basin to the West Desert, we have an opportunity to make sure ensure that everybody gets a good education, no matter where they're located in the state of Utah. I'd like to emphasize too, maybe it's because I come from local government, but I really do believe in the principle of local control. We as a state rail against the micromanagement of the federal government and creating one-size-fits-all solutions, when we know that we're not exactly like every other state. We have different demographics, different needs, different challenges, and there ought to be the ability for us as a state to decide our own destiny and address the issues as we see as best for our taxpayers in Utah. I feel the same way about our 41 school districts. Nobody knows better the needs that they have in their respective school districts of Utah than the superintendents, the local elected school boards, the teachers, the parents, the students, and those local regions. And so I'm putting the money into the WPU to give the school districts the ability to decide, do I want more in the way of higher teacher salaries? Do I want to have smaller classrooms? Do I have more technology? Do I want to have more professional development for our teachers? Do I want to have a little bit of all of the above? That ought to be a decision that happens at the local level, and I think that principle is one that we ought to make a commitment to. Let me talk to you about the other big driver, and that has to do with student growth. We are the third fastest growing state in America today. We have a younger population, we have higher birth rates, we have larger family sizes. And so that growth factor is something we need to address every year just to tread water, just to break even. And so we're having to put, to maintain, a total of $112 million. That's not an insignificant amount of money into public education just for the growth. We have about 9,700 new students in public education. That's about a $91 million cost. And then we had additional money because of in-migration and other factors. We had a kind of a surplus of students into the education system this year. And so we've got to go back and backfill for that need. That's another $21 million. So the 91 and the 21 is the $112 million. By the way, that 9,700 students, just to give you a little bit of perspective on what that means, that's the equivalent to 380 new classrooms in our state. 380 new classrooms are going to magically appear over this next education cycle. And we wonder why we have some unique challenges when it comes to funding education. That's the secret. That's something that we all probably appreciate and understand. But anyway, WPU and growth are the two drivers for public education. On the higher education side, let me just talk about some proposals there. We appreciate that more and more demand is going to be made on our institutions of higher learning. Great to have Commissioner Dave Bueller here with us, who's helping us in that regard. I don't see anybody from UCAT here, but Denise Hufterman from Slaughter Community College. But more and more of our students understand how important and significantly valuable it is to get something post-high school. We have a goal of 66 by 2020. We're trying to make the students aware you've got to go beyond high school if you're going to be successful in today's marketplace. There's a lot of different pathways post-high school, but take one of them. And so we're going to put some significant money into higher education. Just to give you the number, it's $141 million total. And I'll just highlight a couple. $9.2 million to minimize the need to increase tuition. We are a fortunate state. We're trying to make education affordable. We're at about the third lowest when it comes in America to tuition costs in higher education. We have lower student debt because of that. People have access and ability to get to college because we've kept the costs down. We're going to continue to try to do that. So we're putting $9.2 million to help minimize any need to have tuition increases in our state institutions of higher learning. $5.5 million for, in fact, performance-based funding for our higher institutions of higher learning. We're putting $75 million in for construction of new structures. Again, as more students are going to college and the need for new buildings, we're putting $75 million in for construction and operation and maintenance. We're putting $32 million in for compensation. We have great instructors and professors, and that's a 2.75% increase, as well as $8 million for rising health cost insurance. So again, we know there's a rising cost there. We want to help defray that and help keep our professors' compensation whole. We're putting money in for custom fit with UCAT, some of our alignment. We talk about partnerships in our state. This is with some of our business communities and helping them get specific custom fit training for some of our unique manufacturing and other industries here in the state of Utah. And also with UCAT to help them with student tracking to make sure that we're in fact reaching our goals and making sure that those goals and the information we have, the data is accurate. Our goal, as you know, is to become a top 10 state. I know we're at the low end when it comes to people spending, but we're achieving. We're punching way above our weight, and certainly way above what we're spending. I appreciate the numbers that have come out that contribute to our teachers, our stakeholders, parents, all those who are involved in education. To see that right now, when it comes to our NAEP scores, which is the national comparison, we're 16th. In math, we're 10th in reading language arts. These are 8th grade scores. And we're 7th in science. Shows that we're doing some remarkably good things. Is it enough? No. And we have some more to do? Yes. But I like the trend. I like the trajectory. I like the fact that I think we're on the right road, going in the right direction. And I credit all those involved in education for lengthening their stride and stepping up a bit here when it comes to educational achievement. So let me just conclude here before we open up for questions. I think the budget I proposed here, and we just highlighted a few of the areas. I know you've always got the budget proposal booklet you can look at your leisure. But I think these are sound budget recommendations. They've been thoughtful. We've been methodical in our process of listening to the requests and demands and the needs out there in the marketplace from not only legislators, our agencies, stakeholders, business and civic leaders, to say, we need this. And as we've had to sort through that, we've come up with what I think are very sound, defensible budget recommendations. I've called them strategic investments. I think they will pay important dividends for our future, for our quality of life, and for our opportunity to continue economic growth and success there. I think we have an excellent track record. When you look back at the last 5 or 6 years with our administration and the great team we've assembled together in state government, coupled with our partnership with the private sector, has been excellent. I said in my first inaugural address, we ought to have unprecedented partnerships. And I said that if we could have unprecedented partnerships, the ability to work together in ways we've never done before, we have unlimited possibilities of what we can achieve in the state. And we see this happening. It's nice to see the fruits of our labors coming to pass here. This budget here, in fact, builds upon that track record. It will help continue Utah's forward progress and achievements that we've seen in the past, but in fact raise the bar for us in the future. 3 million people now reside in Utah and growing. And those challenges, the growth pressures are real. We're taking steps to make sure we can adjust and address those pressures that come with growth and the challenges that we face. I think it invests money very wisely. It's not just spreading it around to be proportionate, give everybody a little bit. We've tried to be very targeted in how we put our money to the areas of greatest need. And it's coupled with our ongoing philosophy to, in fact, make sure we get every impact, every return on the taxpayer's dollar we possibly can. Every bang for the buck, we say. And again, I credit Kristen Cox, our efforts with our Office of Management and Budget, our goal of finding more efficiencies in state government. We set the goal of 25% by the end of 2016. And the good news is we are exactly on track. We're about 24% efficient, more efficient now than we were 2 years ago. We will meet that goal and exceed that goal by the end of 2016, which means we're spending the taxpayers' dollars more efficiently than ever before. We have fewer state employees now, for example, than we had back in the year 2002. Let's go to 2001 to find a higher number of state employees. So we have become more lean, more efficient, delivering better services and providing opportunity for the private sector to grow and progress and make sure we have a great quality of life here in the state of Utah. Unparalleled, I think, in the country. So as I said before, this budget is in fact rational, it's reasonable, it's responsible. Those are 3 R's: rational, reasonable, and responsible. I'd add a 4th one. It is also responsive. It's responsive to the demands and the needs of the marketplace. We know what the public wants us to do. We know what they appreciate. We know what they're encouraged us to do. So we're responding to the demands of the marketplace out here today. And if we continue to work together as we've done, see the successes we've had in the past, there's no reason why Utah cannot continue to lead this nation. We're doing so now in so many different ways. It's, again, encouraging, but it's not time to rest on our laurels. It's time to press the pedal to the metal and make sure we continue to accelerate and make sure we continue to be #1 place in America when it comes to living, raising families, and to doing business. To that end, I look forward to working with the legislature on this budget, other business and civic leaders and stakeholders as we work together for the good of the people of Utah.